Paradigma pendidikan kami adalah memberi peluang bagi yang ingin berusaha untuk maju dan meraih kemandirian dengan penguasaan ilmu dan teknologi secara kreatif, inovatif, dinamis, dan berakhlakul karimah. Visi kami menjadi sebuah universitas yang unggul dalam pengembangan ilmu dan teknologi dengan berlandaskan nilai-nilai Islam untuk kemaslahatan umat.
Nursing in Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at University Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta has been established since 2000. It has outstanding A accreditation for undergraduate program and professional program from the Indonesian Accreditation Agency for the Higher Education in Health.
School of Nursing UMY has a commitment in developing science and technology through nursing research based on Islamic value for all people in Indonesia and Asia. Emergency nursing camp is basic life support training, especially on emergency response that organized annually with participants from national and international students. Besides that, we also conduct international nursing summer school that organized in 2 weeks to learn in the community by integrating nursing aspect, Islamic aspect, and also Japanese culture for international and national nursing students.
Apa kabar kalian di sana? Sudah berminggu kita tidak bersua. Kampus sepi rasanya. Berbulan lalu, deru kendaraan di pagi hari menghidupkan kampus. Pun kadang ada yang berlari, berpeluh agar tidak terlambat masuk kuliah jam 7. Pagi yang penuh semangat juga pagi yang menyisakan kantuk setelah mengerjakan tugas malam suntuk. Sorak semarai yang tak kenal waktu. Sekarang kampus sepi. Pagi, siang, sore, malam, semua diganti dengan keramaian virtual, saling sapa di layar kaca. Tadinya segan mengaku, tapi toh ternyata kami tetap rindu mendengar candaan kalian yang tidak kenal tempat. Kadang juga sambatan saat bimbingan, tapi lebih seru saat tukar kelakar, melihat kalian berlalu lalang antara kelas, kantin, masjid, parkiran, ruang praktek, memperjuangkan asa, menciptakan masa depan. Kami rindu melihat kerut-kerut alis kalian saat akan mengeluarkan ide-ide cemerlang. Kami rindu melihat senyum dan lebarnya tawa kalian saat yang diupayakan berhasil digenggam. Kami rindu bisa membersamai masa-masa kalian, menempa diri di sini. Badai pasti berlalu, sampai waktu itu tiba, jaga diri kalian di sana. Dari kami yang penuh kerinduan.
Hello, Juan.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Juan. How are you? Yeah. So for today, Bu Iva be the moderator of your lecture because I have another event to attend. But I hope that you will have an interaction and also good experiences and interaction with the students.
I hope so too. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So shall I start?
Okay, let's start
Yes, ya, Bu
now.
Iva.
Ya, boleh.
Ya.
Oke, aku buka. Let me open the this lecture first, then I will time for you to give the lecture. Okay. Baik, alhamdulillahirobbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajmain. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. First of all, thanks to Allah for His blessings. So we are able to attend this meeting today. Then thanks to Juan. Shall I call you Juan or Juan?
Both, whatever is easier.
Dr. Leiva.
Okay.
Because
Leiva.
I think because it's in a lecture, so we can call Dr. Leiva. And mungkin Bu Iva sebentar, mohon maaf, untuk mahasiswa silakan menyalakan kamera ya, supaya lebih ada interaksinya karena sudah jauh dari Spanyol. Kalau hanya tutup-tutupan nanti nggak kelihatan.
Iya. Oke, baik. Silakan dibuka kameranya dulu. Baik. Silakan nanti yang belum membuka kamera, silakan kameranya dibuka ya, sebagai tanda penghormatan kita atas guru kita. Gitu. Tamu yang datang dari jauh, kalau misalnya tidak kita sambutkan aneh gitu ya. Ya. Baik, semoga kita mendapatkan keberkahan atas pertemuan ini dan menghormati guru kita. Okay, welcome to Mr. Juan Manuel Leiva Moral for your willingness to give the lecture today. Then let me explain about the program today. After opening, we will listen lecture from you for about 16 minutes, and then we will continue with a question and answer session, about 30 minutes. Then, okay, students, let's start our lecture today by saying basmalah and doa. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Raditu billahi rabba wa bil islami dina wa bi Muhammadin nabiyya wa rasulah. Rabbi zidni ilma wa zidni fahma. Amin. Baik, mahasiswa sekalian, mohon dibuka kameranya. Kemudian nanti kalau misalnya ada pertanyaan, silahkan dicatat dulu. Kalau misalnya mungkin bahasa, kalau bisa langsung nanti ya pertanyaannya. Kemudian kalau misalnya tidak, boleh dicatat di chat room. Okay, Juan, time is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and sharing with you my experience with transcultural nursing and cultural competence. And well, thank you to Muhammadiyah University for the invitation. It's a pleasure. I really like to, always to share knowledge and experiences in different context and to share experiences with different students and colleagues. So let me share with you some slides. I'm going to talk about transcultural nursing and cultural competence. And I'm not very familiar with Zoom because we use another program, but I will do my best. I think it's share here and here. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Great. And this here. Okay, so well, as I was introduced by your teacher, my name is Dr. Juan Leiva. I come from Barcelona, in Spain, and I work in the nursing department in the Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona. I'm teaching community nursing, and I'm also in charge of a course that it's called Culture, Society, and Health, where we teach this lecture you're gonna hear now, listen now. And also I'm involved with my PhD students and my master's students. I'm basically interested in issues related to sexual health, stigma, discrimination, and transcultural care in all the possibilities. Let's begin first with this real case I had many years ago when I was in an intensive care unit. I have changed some names, I mean, for privacy issues. But Miguel is a senior nurse and he works in an intensive care unit in a big hospital in Tarragona in Spain. And when his shift is finishing, Ashma, a 30-year-old Muslim woman in need of enteral nutrition, was admitted to the ICU. The family is very affected, very nervous, and they're suffering because they don't know if she's gonna make it or not, she's gonna survive or not. The family speaks very fluent Spanish, and her husband asks Miguel, the nurse, if the food, I mean, what are the ingredients of the food we are giving to this woman? I mean, what is this food made of? He's very nervous, he's very anxious. The nurse, Miguel, asked the husband what's wrong with him. The nurse gets a little bit angry and upset, and he asks him, what's wrong with you? And the nurse tells the husband, the husband tells the nurse that he is worried because maybe this artificial food may have pork proteins inside, and he is not happy with that. The nurse gets a little bit angry and tells the husband he should give up religion now because there are more important things now than religion. Now is not the time. This is what the nurse said. And the most important thing is to save Ashma's life. The husband gets very angry and he asks Miguel to leave. At the end, the husband asked the nurse to leave and leave him alone. This nowadays is not so common because we have learned many things about Muslim community in our country, but 10 years ago this was very uncommon, and we had to learn how to take care of all patients we had and avoid these situations. We will go in depth later. So now let's go to get some theory. And when we talk about transcultural nursing, we have to think about a specific area of study, in this particular case of nursing studies, but it's also an area of practice that is focused on the values of comparative cultural care, beliefs, both individual or collective practices in similar or different groups. And the final aim is to provide culturally adapted nursing care in a meaningful way. So at the end, what we want to do is to provide proper care for those we are caring for. So in that case, I mean, from a transcultural point of view, it's more important the patient and family perspective than our perspective, because we're taking care of them. One of the main authors of transcultural nursing, actually, she is the one who wrote the most well-known theoretical model, is Madeleine Leininger. I will go in the next slide. But first, I would like you to remember that many times we talk about multicultural, intercultural, and transcultural as having the same meaning, the same as when we say multidisciplinary team, interdisciplinary team, or transdisciplinary team, and it's not the same. When we're talking about something that is multicultural, it means that there are different cultures living together. That's all. No interaction, no learning from each other, nothing else, just different cultures. When we talk about intercultural, these different cultures that live together, they are sharing some practices, some knowledge. They're, let's say, a little bit interconnected. But when we talk about transcultural, this goes farther. It means that there are many different cultures living together, sharing together some spaces, some norms, some realities, but also learning from each other. And at the end, let's say, getting a final product built by all of them. So it's like, let's say, for example, we live together, Muslim, Buddhist, Catholics, Jewish, and atheists, for example. And we interact with each other, we learn from each other, and we try to design and get final goals together. This is the theoretical model of Madeleine Leininger. She was a nurse and also an anthropologist, and she wrote what is called the sunrise model. And basically what it's quite complicated to summarize this in a couple of minutes, but basically what it says is that you have to think about your caring experiences from your patients, and in order to understand these caring experiences and all the meanings involved, you have to think that we all live surrounded by a world view that has cultural and social influences. For example, in Western society, or in Europe, we all live under the scope of a globalized and capitalist world view. So this has to be taken into account, because this is what it's modeling what lies underneath. And also, when we're thinking about our patients, we have to think about many issues that can, or actually many issues that are influencing the meaning of care, the meaning of illness, the meaning of health, etc. For example, technological factors. It's not the same living in an area where you have access to many, let's say, devices, technology, or I don't know, like informatics and all these issues, many sophisticated machines, or living in a rural area where you don't have access to all of these. So these technological factors will influence health, healing, etc. For example, it's not the same an ICU in, for example, in Barcelona, where I live, or if you go to a tiny town in center Spain, for example, it's a rural area, or in the mountains. So they won't probably have all these technological factors, and they will have to deal with the health and illness issues in a different way. Also, patients, they build, not patients, people in general, they build their beliefs in terms of their religion, their spirituality, or their philosophy. This is what is taught generation by generation, from fathers to the children, etc. Also, in terms of kinship, and social factors, depending where you're living or the rules in your society. For sure, cultural values and beliefs has an important.
Saya ingin lanjut S2, terus kerja.
I think there's a microphone open. Thank you. What I was saying, culture, values, beliefs, and lifestyles also will imagine, for example, what the health beliefs can be from an athlete, for example, that is training every day, or from a model, for example, that is taking care of her body because it's the way she works. I mean, she works thanks to her body. So this will influence her way of life, the meaning she or he gives to health, etc. For sure, also we have biological factors that influence our health and our access to care, etc. Political and legal factors, economical factors, and educational factors. And this is, I mean, there are plenty of evidence of this last one. I mean, the more educated you are, the more access you have to different resources, access to different levels of care, negotiating with your provider, etc. So this yellow ring you have here is something that you have to take in mind every time you have a patient. I mean, try to think. I mean, let's wait for a second. Where does she come from? What access does she have to knowledge, to knowledge in general, economy, religion, etc. Because according to all of these, this person is going to build his or her reality in terms of health. And it's very important as well that this model is not focused only in the person, it's focused also in the families, groups, communities, or institutions. Because we don't usually live alone. Even if you live alone by yourself, because you're single and you're living alone, or you're traveling and you're living alone, or whatever, you live in a community, that there are norms, that there are influences, that there are values that are shared in different ways. So even if you live alone, you are influenced, or you are getting influences from the others. So this is important to think about that. And also it's very important to think about the generic, I mean, let's say like the non-formal ways of caring. For example, in my country, it's very important to think about what was your grandmother doing in those situations, like local remedies or natural or alternative medicine and things like that. Okay, so at the end, if we think and try to implement all of these issues in our caring practices, when we are evaluating, designing, and implementing our interventions, we will, I mean, we will have like three, or we can have like three different products, preserving or maintaining these cultural issues from our patients, accommodating or negotiating some differences, or repatriating or reconstructing these issues from a patient. Be aware of this last one, because this doesn't mean I have to change my patient's point of view. This would be unrespectful. Imagine that someone wants to try to change you because he or she doesn't consider it's important, and what it's more important is the provider perspective. That would be very uncomfortable. So this means restructuring in terms of the situation. For example, the one I told you before, restructuring the situation would mean speaking with the husband, try to calm him, try to understand why he is so worried about the pork protein, try to deal with some there's another okay try to speak with a religious leader in the hospital, in the community, and see if there's any exceptions for this pork protein, etc. I don't know. Try to repattern this situation, but not canceling. Okay, so this is basically the model of Leninger sunrise theory. And now it's not working. I think. Okay. And also this is the last one from the transcultural model from Leninger. Because I don't know. Well, you tell me how I'm going, how my time is going. I mean, the transcultural nursing model from Leninger sets 4 phases, and this is very important for you to know now. Where are you at this moment? Where are you as a nurse in terms of transcultural care? The first step is getting awareness and sensitivity of cultural care differences and similarities. That is, am I interested in differences? Am I interested in different people? Am I interested in caring for people different than me in a respectful way? Do I feel any attraction or attraction of when I'm in a different situation, in a patient with a different background than me? This would be phase 1. It's like your beginning. Okay, at least you are aware and you are sensitive of this different situation. Phase 2 will ask you to gain deeper transcultural nursing theory and also evidence-based knowledge regarding cultural competence. For example, this lecture of today's lecture could be like your first ingredient or your first step to go to phase 2. Phase 3 means that you are using, now you're getting into action, you're using evidence-based findings in a creative way, very practical, in order to arrive to your client, let's say. So we began from feeling aware and sensitive in phase 1, then we got trained, and now we are using this training that we have gotten to begin with some intervention. And finally, in phase 4, we are implementing this transcultural evidence into the community, into the clinical settings, with a meaningful way, and also with documented improved health outcomes. So you have the, let's say, like the, I mean, you need to evaluate what you have implemented. If you just intervene, if you just do things and you don't evaluate them, you will get stuck in phase 3. So phase 4 asks you for intervention and evaluation in a transcultural way. Okay, so now that you are a student, try to think, where are you? I mean, if you have gone to clinicals, to your clinical practice, and you have experienced some transcultural issues, try to think, where are you? Of course, Madeleine Leninger, she doesn't say so, but I would add that there is a phase 0. That is those people who doesn't feel any empathy or any attraction. They don't feel interested in taking care of different people because I don't like them, I don't like the different, I don't like the others. So this would be phase 0 for me. Okay. Okay, so now it's time to talk about cultural competence, which will help us to provide transcultural care. So let's say transcultural nursing is like in a higher between brackets theoretical level, and cultural competence are the tools we need, or the theories we need to at the end implement or become transcultural. And I always like to use this drawing that says you're biased, because it's very easy to say someone you're biased, you're not being transcultural, or you're not being culturally competent. And the other one is say, yes, so am I. And it matters, of course, it matters, because all of us, regardless of your background, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of your access to information or wherever, all of us, we are biased. And at some point, some people are more biased and some people are less biased. But at some point, we always have had some beliefs, for example, or some stereotypes or some prejudices to other. It's like, I don't like homeless people because they are dirty. I don't like to take care of prostitutes because they are sinners. Or I don't like, I don't know. Okay, so at the end, we all have like a watermark. We have some cultural issues, cultural background that influences our beliefs. The important thing is to be aware. Why don't I like prostitutes? Why, when I have a HIV patient, I feel so nervous, I feel so angry? Why, when I have an alcoholic patient, I have these issues and I think he or she is doing wrong and I'm doing the right thing? So try to think about that. This remember phase one. So at the end, we are all biased. This is some information I got from Mahzarin Banaji from Harvard University, and she said that most of us believe that we are ethical and unbiased. Most of us, clinicals, professionals, we think that we are unbiased. That's not true. Well, we may think we are not biased, but at the end, we all have some bias inside us. She says also that professionals say that they are good making objective decisions, which we should think about that, because it depends when we are good, or what does good mean. And we are I mean, it's easier for them to reach logical and fair conclusions. But at the end, what she says is that more than 20 years of research confirm that most of us are carried away by our perceptions. That means that most of us have a conscious bias, something that is inside us and pops up in a natural way, in an unconscious way. Okay, so try to think always, even when you are discussing with your friends or something, try to identify, oh, this is an unconscious bias, this is something natural that was recent. So what is cultural competence? Cultural competence is a process. It's a process. That's very important. It's not something that I can teach you now and that's all. It's a process you will have to learn. And what we want to learn, or what we want to achieve, is the ability and availability. That's very important, because you may be very able to do something, but you're not available because your skills doesn't, I don't know, allow you, or because well, I don't know, you may even don't want to do it. So at the end, what we want is to work effectively in a specific cultural context, or different cultural context, with the family, the individual, and the community. Remember that we are not persons living alone. We live with families, we live with communities, etc. So the process of cultural competence is very important to get interested, or to be able to assess or to intervene in terms of awareness, knowledge, skills, encounters, and desires. Those are the 5 issues that Campiña Bacote, one of the main authors from the United States, she's Brazilian, but from the United States, and seeing the slide is an old model. It's like a classical model. So we have to think about awareness, knowledge. Do I have the knowledge to care for these different people? Do I have the cultural skills, like some language expressions, some traditions, etc.? How many encounters have I had with different people? Then how these encounters have been, and am I ready to have more encounters? And also the cultural desires. There are people who wish all the time, like me, for example. I always enjoy being surrounded by different people. I'm always interested in mobility. When there's an opening in my university for going and visit whatever the country is or the university, I'm always interested because I want to learn. I want to see things from different eyes. So that's cultural desire. It's like I really desire to learn. Actually, when I went to visit Muhammadiyah University, for me was like, I don't know, like a dream, because it's a very different cultural context from my context, and it was an opportunity to know great teachers, different ways of teaching, different ways of eating, behaving, religion, etc. So for me, that was amazing. There's another author, a European author, that is Rena Papadopoulos, and in the definition of cultural competence, she includes the responsibility. This is very important, because if you as a nurse really believe that it's your responsibility to be culturally competent, it's a very different point of view. Sorry, my dog. Sorry. Okay. So according to Papadopoulos, responsibility is one of the important things. And according also to the American Nursing Association Culturally Competency Expert Panel, it's important to have knowledge, to have skills, in order to provide culturally care. And let me go a little bit further, because I'm going to be run of time. Let me hold for a second, if you don't mind, because someone is knocking at my door. Well, I'm sorry. Someone was ringing my bell. Well, I told you before about the unconscious bias. This is important. Remember, I mean, try to remember, always try to do this exercise of thinking, what is influencing me? What is, I mean, why am I thinking in this way? And also, it's very interesting to do this exercise with your colleagues, with your students, with your mates. It's very easy to say things that comes naturally, you know, like for example, I don't know, like all these stereotypes: women cannot drive, or women drive worse than men, or I don't know, or whatever, or especially stereotypes. So every time you identify one of these, remember me, unconscious bias, okay? So important in terms of cultural competence, important to remember very easy, I mean, like very basic concepts: perceptions, how do you see people, and how do you perceive your reality and their reality. How, I mean, in terms of attitudes, how we react towards certain people, how we react when we have, as I said, an alcoholic patient or I don't know, like a patient with mental health issues, for example. How do I react? Our behaviors, this means how receptive, how friendly we are with certain people. And also be aware, it's a very tricky word. Friendly doesn't mean that I have to protect you all the time and being overprotective, because this will lead to, I don't know, like stealing the ability from patients. I mean, we don't have to overreact. Also, attention. What aspect of the patient I'm paying more attention to? The biological, the pharmacological, let's say, but what about the social? What about the spiritual? What I'm paying attention of? And also think about your listening skills. If you are listening actively, or, and this is, I mean, this is very common. I mean, when someone is talking to you, you can see if the other is actively listening. So there are some kind of tricks when you are working with your patients, like repeating some words, or saying, oh yes, oh yes, how interesting. I don't know, some tricks that changes from culture to culture, that show you really care about that. This is another very well-known model of cultural competence made by Larry Parnell. I really recommend you to read. And I mean, in order to understand the issues I'm going to explain in the next slide, it's important to know the assumptions where Parnell began his model. And the first of all is that all the professionals require information on cultural diversity. Also, that one culture is not better than another, they're just different. That there are some similarities in the center of all cultures. I mean, if you think of all the different cultures you have in your neighborhood, for example, you may find one center that puts them, I don't know, like together. There are also differences with each culture and also between them. That culture is something that is not static. Culture is something dynamic that is changing over time. Also, you have to think about the primary and the secondary characteristics of the culture that will determine the degree to which one differs to the dominant culture. For example, in my case, the dominant culture in Spain, we have a Catholic traditional background, even though now we are we are like a non-religious country, but we have this background. So if we have different countries, different cultures living here, we need to differentiate each other. I mean, what are the differences from the dominant culture? 7, if clients are co-participants in care and have the choice to design their health goals, to be active in the interventions, etc., all the outcomes will be improved. This is basically patient-centered care or person-centered care. Culture has a powerful influence of self-interpretation and responses to healthcare. That's very important. Especially as I wrote here, individuals and family members belong to various cultural groups, and this is very easy to see when we have 3 different generations living together. It's not the same beliefs and values that grandma may have or grandchild may have, and sometimes they argue because they don't get along. So this is what we have to think. For sure, each person has the right to be respected. Health practitioners need training about culture, because we are the one who can evaluate, plan, intervene, etc. So we need to be trained. Culture of learning is an ongoing process, as I told you before. This is not something that you will learn today and you will, I don't know, like you are done. You need to train, because culture is something that is changing. And remember, biases, we all have biases, and they can be minimized if we do this exercise of understanding, of critical thinking, reflective thinking, etc. At the end, it's like we don't, I don't know how to say, we don't own the truth. I mean, we are professionals, we are practitioners, and we are there to care for patients. And they know the reality. They know how they want to be cared, what is important for them. Also, that we live surrounded by different races and cultures that require different intervention. I cannot do the same, for example, I cannot do the same care for a dead person if I'm dealing with a rich person, a poor person, a Muslim person, a Buddhist person. I mean, it's very easy to provide examples with religion, but you don't, I mean, don't think that it's always related to religion. When we talk about culture, we talk about many other things, as I told you in the slide with the model of Leninger. And also professionals, organizations, and associations have their own cultures. In the hospital, there is a culture, even though it's not a formal culture, but each hospital has its own culture, rules, leaders, norms that must be followed, schedules, hierarchy, etc. So we need to understand what's going on there in order to implement our interventions as well. So when we are thinking about when we're using Larry Parnell model, assessing a person, for example, we have to evaluate general description and heritage of this person and family. That means where does he live, or why, if he's a migrant, why he or she has migrated, the political, educational status, occupation, etc. Also, we have to be interested in communication related to the dominant language. If he or she is using a dialect, for example, I'm Spanish, and I'm also Catalan, which is a region of Spain, and I speak Catalan as well. So, for example, in my case, my mother tongue is Spanish, but most of my friends, their mother tongue is Catalan. So for them, it would be better to communicate with them in Catalan rather than in Spanish, because they will feel more in español. They will feel more I don't know, like an authentic care, like a real care. I really care about you, so I'm going to communicate in your dialect. Of course, that doesn't mean we have to learn all the languages in the world. For example, the volume or the tone of the voice. We all know that different people, different cultures talk higher or lower, or in a monotone song or something like that. Also, nonverbal communication. There are very, I mean, you can have issues with nonverbal communication. I remember when I was a student in the University of Edinburgh in United Kingdom, in Scotland, that when I was going to a bar and I was asking for a Coke or for a drink, I was asking for two Cokes, because in my country it's how we do this. And this is very rude in the United Kingdom, very rude. So every time I was asking for a drink in a bar, my friend was always just hitting me and saying, no, don't do that. So it was an unintentional thing, because in my country, this is the way we do things, but there it's very rude. So those things are important to identify. Also, the roles and organization of the family. Who is the leader of the family, if there is any? Is there any gender role? Women, men, etc. Extended family, if they live together 3-4 generations. Non-traditional sexual orientation. How is this deal in this cultural group? How do they manage about LGBT issues, transgender issues, etc., or about marriage, divorce, etc. Also, we need to know about job. What does it mean to have a job in this culture, and the impact it can have, and what kind of jobs can be performed by men, by women, etc. There's also biocultural ecology issues, such as skin color, in terms of, for example, taking care of a wound. There are some issues related to skin color, biological variations according to biology, also health conditions or metabolism of drugs. I mean, it's not the same metabolism for a man, for a woman, from a sub-Saharan African. I mean, there are some biochemical issues. Also, we need to explore high-risk health behaviors and what does it mean for the patient? Cigarettes, alcohol, other drugs, physical activity, etc. I remember when I was a child, I'm 47 now, when I was a child, and the family, we were invited to a wedding. It was okay to have a cigarette for a child. I mean, I remember myself being 8 years old or something like that, and having a cigarette in a wedding. That now would be a crime. I mean, now social services will come to your house and complain with the mother and the father. So it was the same place, the same country, different time, but the issue was the same, having a cigarette. So and finally, these issues: nutrition, I mean, the meaning of the food, if there's any ritual, etc. Pregnancy and maternity practices. How do they want to give birth? If, for example, artificial fertilization is approved or not? What about abortion, etc. Rituals of death. How do we have to care for these people who are dying? If there's any ritual or any burial practices. What about euthanasia? Also about spirituality, because euthanasia, for example, is legal or illegal in some countries, or regardless of legality, is accepted or not accepted practice. In terms of spirituality, of course, religious or other practices of giving meaning to life. For example, I'm not a religious person, but I have many many practices that give meaning to my life, for example, yoga or things like that. Healthcare practices and also healthcare professionals. And this is very important because we are part of all these domains. I mean, depending on how you behave, the product, the cultural product you provide in terms of care will be one or another. I'm going to skip the model because it's very tiny. You can check it in every book, but it summarizes all the things I have explained it to you. And I will end here because I think I ran out of time. Campiña-Bacote, I told you before, the definition of cultural competence. Campiña-Bacote defines 7 issues that we need to implement when we pretend or when we want to be culturally competent. The first of all is to have cultural desire. I mean, if we don't have any desire to be interested in the others, I mean, we will probably succeed. The second one is to get cultural knowledge. You read, you attend to lectures, you see documentaries, you talk to your patients or to your neighbors. And then you develop this cultural awareness. It's like your eyes are open. You are paying attention to differences. Then you get, let's say, proficient. You get your skills. You learn how to do things, and you get more interested in these differences and ways to do things with different people. So you are interested in cultural encounters, and finally you get this cultural sensitivity. But this doesn't end here. This is a cycle, it's a process, because, for example, I could have a cultural situation with, I don't know, like very rich people. I've never cared of Queen, for example, and I wonder, how would it be to take care of a king or something like that. I'm sure there might be very different cultural issues underneath. So once I learn how to do this, and then I need to take care of a homeless person, I need to start the circle again, because it's a very different situation. Or when I take care of a Muslim person or an atheist person. Well, basically, this is what I explained to you in my. I will share the slides if you want, because I would like to go to the discussion rather than so much theory. Last one, I promise. Papadopoulos model. This is the European I told you. She presents 4 areas we need to develop, very similar to Campiña Bacote. But remember that she was the one who said we have the responsibility to do it. Okay, so we need to develop cultural awareness, cultural knowledge, cultural sensitivity, and if we get these 3, we will get cultural competence, and we will be able to assess, diagnose, and provide clinical care in a culturally competent way, without prejudices, discrimination, and inequalities. So if we are able to arrive here to the cultural competence square here, we will get we will become culturally competent. So this is I mean, I would like to present you this case scenario. This is something I work with my students, and I would like you to discuss. I mean, for sure, if you have any questions, I mean, I will ask you. I mean, I will answer you. But I would like you to present this case and some challenging questions, and see what are your opinions or your points of view, or what would you do. So Rafael is a 31 years old Roma, a gypsy boy who lives in Mallorca in Spain. He's been married to Soraya, who is 30 years old and is also gypsy. They've been married for 15 years and they have 2 sons. One is 13 and another one is 12, 2 boys. And they also have 1 girl, which is 8 days old. Okay. Today, they went to the community pediatric nurse office for advice on breastfeeding for the little girl. Anna, the nurse, collects all the needed biological, psychological, and social information to perform a holistic, okay, a complete assessment. Anna, the nurse, discovers that Soraya is alone at home the whole day with the help of her mother-in-law and her sister-in-law. Rafael, father, works the whole day selling fruits in mobile markets. Soraya complains she would like her husband to cooperate more at home, but she accepts it because, this is what she says, it is the right thing to do by men. She would have loved to study and become a nail aesthetic professional, but it has been impossible taking care of the house, the children, the husband, etc. Besides, Anna, the nurse, discovers that the oldest son, the one who is 13, is called Noel, sometimes skips classes to help his father in the fruit market. Both parents agree. This is because they believe boys must obey and help their parents always, even though his grades in school are failing dramatically. Anna, the nurse, gets upset and stands up in the middle of the visit and says, what's going on here? You are doing everything wrong. If you don't change immediately, I will call the social services. Rafael, the father, gets upset too and yells at her, saying, you are no one to tell me how to raise my family. We do it this way. It has been like this for ages. You don't understand anything. By chance, Anna's supervisor listens the screams and asks Anna, the nurse, to leave the room for a minute. The supervisor asks Anna, what's going on here? you need to improve your behavior, especially in terms of culturally competent care. Anna doesn't understand. She believes she's right and she has done anything wrong. So I would like to think about what problems do you identify here and why this is a problem. What interventions would be needed and why and by whom? What do you think the nurse should improve if she has to improve anything? Maybe she doesn't have to improve anything according to your beliefs. How could she or he do it? What could happen if the nurse does nothing? Do you think the nurse is providing proper culturally competent care? Why? I mean, why? What are the proofs that tells you that she is providing culturally competent care or not? What knowledge is needed to solve this problem? Any? And which are the difficulties the nurse will have to deal with and why? And finally, what are the possible benefits of nursing interventions? This is a very complicated situation. It's not a real situation, but it's something that could happen every day in a primary care office, depending on the neighborhood we have. In Barcelona, we have some neighborhoods that many Roma Gypsy people live. So now I would like to, oh, sorry, and what theoretical concepts do you identify in this situation? This is the last slide. Here you have some references, and if I'm not wrong, that's the end. Yeah. Let me do one thing. I will write the questions in the chat because I would like to cancel the screen sharing. And I would like you to, I would like to discuss with you this situation. What would you do? What problems do you identify, etc. Okay. And of course, if you have any question, any comment, any whatever, we can discuss this as well. Let me copy this. Oops. Okay, so now time is yours. I hope you've liked it.
Okay, Johan, very interesting presentation from you. Okay, students, would you like to? Okay, there's a question in chat room.
I'm sorry, sir. My name is Anggita Ari Guritna from Banjarnegara, Central Java, Indonesia. Sir, I want to ask, how can a local nurse cope with cultural difference with overseas patients? Or let me just type because I'm not fluent in English. Well, writing, you're very fluent. Okay, Anggita or Anjita. If you think about the theory that I have shown, the first thing is to develop this sensitivity and to be aware that you need to provide a care in a different way to different people. And as I understand from your comment or from your attitude, I think you already are interested in that. So this is good. Now, the next thing to do is to get trained. This is not something, you may get some training in the university for sure, but it's something that you're gonna need to develop. And another very important thing is that if you don't know something from your patient, ask him or ask her, how would you like me to do this? According to your culture, how is this done in a proper way? Because you cannot know everything. Everything is impossible. So ask him or her, how would you like to do this? And then, of course, unless it's like a negligent issue, something that is not possible to do, unless this situation, I think it's very easy to implement this. At the end, it's a matter of honesty and being genuine being real. I don't know if if I'm not answering your question, just tell me through the chat. Who else?
Anggita, bagaimana? Masih ada pertanyaan lebih dalam? Apakah sudah jelas? Is that clear for you, Anggita? Mana Anggita ya?
Yes, sir. Thanks for information.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Anggita. Is there any question? More question?
And also, it's very important to. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. I don't know. But I mean, I remember when I was a nursing student as well that I was really wanting to get my white coat and being a professional, a respected professional, and being treated as a respectful professional. This is something very tricky, because if you think you are the owner of the situation, you are the owner of the knowledge, you have the power, you have patients must obey you, or things like that, you will have issues, you will have problems, because you are not the owner of anything. You are the owner of your own life, if you want, but you are not the owner of others' lives. And of course, there is a cultural issue according to the country where you are. There are some countries, for example, I'm used to work with Peru in South America, and patients there are very passive. I mean, they always obey to what the nurse says or what the doctor says. So, and even many times they tell you, do whatever you have to do. You are the one who knows. So in these situations, it's very different. It's very difficult to incorporate their beliefs or their practices, because they're giving you the authority. But always remember that you are not the boss of patients. I mean, you are a professional that is taking care of the patient. So you're not God, you're not the boss, you're not the owner, you are another professional with all this transdisciplinary team providing your duty. I mean, at the end, it's very simple. So or maybe you can work these questions. I can give the questions and the situation to Dr. Erna, and you can work this one day in a seminar or whatever. But I would like you to invite you to discuss how would you solve this situation? What would you do? Why? Because I mean, it's not a matter of theory. I mean, I can give you hours of theory, but at the end, theory, if we don't implement theory into critical cases or into practice, theory, I mean, you can have many books and read them. I mean, it's not so. I mean, it's very important, but we need to implement this theory into practice.
Okay.
What else? You're very shy.
Ayo, silakan.
122 participants. Oh my God. So you need to ask.
Yeah, please ask him as many as possible.
Now there are 2 hands raised.
Okay, silakan langsung aja.
My name is Warda. I want to ask, at first you're talking about the integrative care practice. There is a nursing based philosophy of nursing with a complementary approach, one of which is about the traditional activities and culture. There must be pros and cons to it. How we should handle it as a nurse. Thank you.
Yes. If I understood right the question, I mean, how do respect or incorporate non-traditional remedies or alternative medicine into our daily practice. And of course, there are pros and cons. But at the end, for example, here in Barcelona is becoming very popular for young parents to use homeopathy. I don't know if you're familiar with homeopathy, some drops that they have the product diluted in a very, very tiny concentration. There's plenty of evidence saying that is working as a placebo effect rather than a formal drug or traditional drug. But for these people is working, and they feel it is working, and they want their children to be treated with these drops. So at the end, and this can have cons, of course, ear infections or gut infections or whatever. And most of these parents, they're reluctant to use antibiotics or vaccines. They believe in a natural world. But at the end, it's like, I can't force you to do this unless it's a legal issue. Even now with COVID, we still have people, they don't want to get the vaccine because they don't trust the drug industries and the vaccines. And we cannot force them because it's not, in my country, vaccination is not mandatory. It's not, it's always optional. Fortunately, most of the people have got the vaccine, but so at the end, it's a matter of negotiating and trying to understand their perspective, my perspective, and achieve main goals, and understanding the possible consequences and how can we can deal with these consequences. But if I tell you, you have to take this antibiotic, I may take it or not, because you're not going to be at home with me forcing me with a spoon or with an injection. So, or for example, is when you say someone you need to lose weight, you need to get some kilos away. You have to be on a diet. You have to eat healthy. Well, I will eat whatever I think it's important, whatever I'm able to eat, because I cannot afford some food because it's very expensive or whatever. So at the end, patients make their own decision according to their health belief system. So it's a matter of negotiating, and to achieve negotiation, you need to be open-minded. You need to be aware. You need to develop this desire, etc.
Okay. Warda, is that clear for you?
Yes, is it clear for me? Thank you.
It's very complicated. I mean, don't think transcultural nursing and cultural competence is something friendly and exotic, like, oh, I'm going to become a cultural. It's very complicated because you're dealing with the maximum diversity. So, and of course, you have your own beliefs. So I remember many years ago that I worked with a nurse, and she always said, I don't take care of alcoholics, in a very rude way. I don't like them. And I was like, oh my God, why? I mean, it's a person, and it's another person, it's another patient. So those are the situations you need to be aware, and then train yourself. I think Muhammad Diki has the hand raised.
Yes, sure. I'm sorry. I have one question. I am for Bogor, in Indonesia. What is the role of nurse of the preventing? Because in my countries have maybe agree to transgender, and is it not legitimate, not legitimate in my countries? And I have two question. What is role of nurse in preventing to the people when there are people who think there is culture is the best. Can you understand?
Mohammed,
Yes.
can you repeat the question again?
Okay. What is the role of nurse to preventing fight that occur when there are people think about culture is the best in countries?
The role. I mean, the role is very complicated to explain, because don't think about transcultural nursing as a list of issues you have to do, you can do, you cannot do.
Yes.
This is something you need to understand your the other culture. You need to understand the other culture in order to adapt your intervention to your patient. For example, in my country, we have lots of Muslim people basically coming from Morocco. And at the beginning, when they came to Barcelona like 10, 15 years ago, we were shocked that husbands were angry if a male doctor or a male nurse was exploring the woman, because they didn't like that. I mean, women should be explored by other women because they feel comfortable, they feel respected according to their beliefs. For us, that was shocking, that was rude, that was invasive, that was not acceptable. I am the doctor, I am the nurse, and I will do the best for my patient, and you don't have to be shy. That was our discourse. That was what we were saying. And now time has shown that it's not so difficult to find a female nurse, or to find a female doctor, and just change positions in order to provide respectful and culturally competent care. So what is the role? The role is to provide culturally competent care. So you need to identify, and you need to be open-minded to identify and select and design the interventions your patient need. You may not like it. You may be taking care of a murderer, for example, that is in prison and is having I don't know, an infection. But he needs care. He needs professional care. Of course, I don't like murders. No. But as a nurse, I need to take care of him or her in the most appropriate way, because I'm not the judge. The judge said he is a murderer, but I'm a nurse. I need to take care of him and his family. So, as you can see, it's a very complicated task, and you need to be very reflective, and always thinking you are not the boss. You are a professional. So the nursing role is to take care of your patient. It's so simple. And if you get into a fight, because it can be, try to investigate why you are having this fight. I mean, I would ask my patient, what is causing you so much problem? What am I doing wrong? How can I improve my practice? What is there something you don't understand? Can I explain this in a different way? I mean, or another exercise. Imagine yourself coming to Barcelona and needing to go to the hospital, and you are treated in a very non-cultural way. How would you feel? So that's the same. I mean, you are now a patient, not a nurse. So try to make these reflective exercises. Okay, did I answer your question?
Yes, I am understand what you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Baik, dan Maulida.
Yes, hello, sir. My name is Maulida. I'm from Lampung, Indonesia. I want to ask what you think a nurse should learn first, or the main thing to have cultural knowledge, cultural attitude, and cultural behavior, and many other. Because we know there are so many cultural in Indonesia and the world, and not a few that contradict each other. Thank you.
So did I understand that you want to know what comes first? If the knowledge, the attitude, the beliefs. I don't know if I got the question right. Mauli.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Tadi maksudnya Maulida menanyakan apa yang harus dipelajari lebih dahulu gitu kah atau gimana?
Yang paling utama, Bu.
Dari attitude, knowledge dan itu.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, try to think in a logical way. You may have many knowledge, too much knowledge in how to set an IV in a patient. Knowledge, you have read a lot, you have seen many videos on YouTube, or you have seen it in your clinical practice, but you haven't done it. You have a lot of knowledge, but then you are a very, I don't know how to say, like a clumsy person, or dirty or unorganized, and when you try to do it, it's horrible. You can't do it. You don't have the skills. You need to train more. So I don't know exactly what is first, if the chicken or the egg. I don't know. What I'm sure is that you need to have knowledge. You need to develop attitudes, and in order to develop attitudes, you need to think about your own attitude, and you need to practice in order to improve your skills, because this is not something you as your computer. You cannot set a USB memory stick and poof, you have all the skills. This is something you have to practice and practice and practice. So being very risky, I would say that the first thing you need is to feel the desire, to feel the I don't know how to say, like the call. You need to be interested in taking care of different people, because if you don't care at all, you won't probably read the articles. For example, all the 122 students that are here, they may probably be here because this is a mandatory lecture. So some of them will be interested, some of them will be feeling the necessity of listening to these transcultural issues, and some other may not. So if you don't feel this necessity, you need to train this. You need to discuss. You need to argue with your friends. You need to, and then it's like you will wake up, and then I hope it will flow easily. So don't expect like a protocol. Step 1, do this. Step 2, say so. Step 3, do this. No, it does. Well, fortunately, I would say, fortunately, it doesn't work like this. You have to create your own way of doing culturally competent practice according to the theory, of course.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oke, masih ada lagi, silakan. Any other questions? So cultural competencies will be always changed, yeah. I mean, for us, we will every time we meet other people with other cultures, so it means we develop our competencies. Is that right? Yeah.
For sure. I mean, and even in local, I mean, in tiny places, there are different realities, and they want probably cultures, but they are or even if you want, forget about cultures and think about realities. So, and your reality, it may not be the same as your neighbor, or even in the same hospital floor, let's say a surgical ward. You may have one patient in this room and another patient in this other room, and two different situations for the same problem, from the same health issue. Imagine, for example, you have a young mother in one room and another young mother in another room. Two girls, two different realities, two different families, probably two different cultural backgrounds. So for sure, we all know that breastfeeding is the best food for the baby, but maybe this girl in this room, he cannot now, because she's suffering from a depression or whatever, she's not in the mood for breast feeding or whatever. So, I mean, the intervention is the same. We should promote breastfeeding, but, or for example, in a industrialized world, I have met many women that they don't want to give breastfeeding because they will I don't know, like the breast will become like not so beautiful or whatever. So they prefer to give bottle because they are influenced with these roles of beauty and so. I mean, the main issue is cultures and different cultures, but at the end, is something that we can apply in everyday practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Is there any question from students?
I share the slides in the chat and also the questions I said before, because I think I made it wrong. And so you have the slides and the question. And if you do the exercise, please tell me what were your conclusions.
Ya, coba jawab pertanyaan itu. Dari slide-slide-nya sudah dibagi tadi ya. Bisa diunduh, kemudian lihat itunya, kasusnya, kemudian coba jawab pertanyaannya ada itu. Pertanyaannya ada di chat juga. Silahkan. Coba menjawab. Try to answer. Sudah mengandung semuanya? Coba jawab pertanyaan pertama. What problems do you identify and why? Siapa yang mau jawab pertanyaan pertama nih? We'll answer the first question.
There is a message from Elviana, but it's in Bahasa.
Oh, okay.
Maaf, Ibu, apakah?
Apakah? Then
PPT.
try to read.
Bisa kita akses ulang terlebih dahulu.
Terlebih dahulu. Yeah, that's good. Good pronunciation. Yeah. If the PowerPoint can be accessed first. Yeah, silahkan.
Yeah, it's for you.
Ya. Silahkan diunduh dulu. Kemudian dilihat kasusnya ada di slide terakhir tadi kalau nggak salah ya.
Sepertinya
Ya,
belum
because
dikirimkan Bu Iva.
gimana?
Kayaknya belum ada di kolom chat untuk filenya.
Itu
Belum ada
sudah
ya?
ada tuh
Oh, sudah ada.
transkultural, udah di atasnya itu. Sudah bisa dilihat, Elviana?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. Usually we put the PowerPoint on the system in my class, and then they will access the PowerPoint from the system. So yeah, now it is okay for them to access directly from the chat.
On the campus virtual, okay.
Ya, oke, silahkan dibaca, kemudian dipahami, lalu dijawab pertanyaannya. Nafis mau mencoba menjawab, silahkan. Atau
Belum.
Faiz. Masri, silakan Masri, kayaknya mau jawab nih.
No questions.
Atau ada yang mau mengajukan pertanyaan, boleh juga loh, silakan.
Oh, has he raised her or his hand?
Yes, I will try to tell about my opinion for the first number. So what is the problem to identify and why? So in my opinion, that the problem is there is a cultural differences between the patient and the nurses. In this case, the nurses think that the patient action is wrong, so she's mad at the patient, which is it is totally wrong, because as a nurse we need to respect the patient culture and behavior, even it is different with our culture. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, there is a problem because the nurse, I don't know if I'm sharing the screen now. No. Here. Are you, I mean, can you see my slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the problem is that, of course, there is a critical encounter because there are two different realities, patient and nurse, well, family and nurse. And the important thing is how she reacts. What is going on here? You are doing everything wrong and you need to change immediately. Why? I mean, according to my culture, according to my values, beliefs, practices, etc., this is the way it's done. Of course, in my Barcelona context, children don't, I mean, they're not allowed to work and they need to go, I mean, they must go to school. And most of Barcelona girls, they don't take care of home. I mean, they just take care of home and children. They work, they share duties with the husband, etc. But in the Roman Gypsy community, this is quite often. So who is the nurse to tell the patient that is doing everything wrong? Everything wrong according to who? According to what rules? According to my Western rules? Because according to the Gypsy rules, they are not doing anything wrong. So yes, you're right. How can I do this? So is anyone thinking, can you see me?
Yes.
Oh, because I can't see you. I don't know what I've done.
From the view, I think. Upper corner right.
Bueno, anyway, I would like to ask you if there is someone who thinks she's doing right. I mean, according to her professional role, she is acting in a proper way. Come on, don't be shy. There must be someone who says, that's okay for me. I mean, okay, I think now I see you. Oh. And it's nothing wrong to admit, to recognize she's doing it okay. I mean, because if you recognize it, it's like you are being aware of what's going on. So I mean, I don't need you to say so in public because maybe you are shy or you don't want to share your private issues. But if someone feels the nurse is acting properly, is his or her opinion, and it's okay. The problem is that this opinion is influencing her professional behavior. So every time you are involved in a situation that creates this conflict, try to think in a transcultural way. Who am I? How am I different from the other? How may I be influenced by some issues? Am I being respectful or not, etc.? Because otherwise you will always give the same care, your care, the way you think care should be provided. And there are many millions of people in the world with many realities. Okay, any other, I don't know, thought, conclusion, reflection? I don't know. I see someone talking, but I can't hear her. I don't know. Maybe she's talking about another thing. I don't know.
Coba silakan menjawab. Kalian setuju nggak dengan apa yang dilakukan oleh perawat itu? Perawat yang ada di kasus itu. Do you agree with what the nurse do?
Maulida has the hand raised.
Okay, silakan Maulida.
Yes, I want to answer number 2.
What interventions are needed and why?
In my opinion, Anna needs to improve her ability in cultural competence because with the existing culture, it cannot be changed just like that. It needs the right process and approach.
Yes, exactly. She needs to. Do you know when you have a castle or a I don't know how to say that. You know, when you have something that you have made, or maybe a castle in the sand, in the beach, you need to break it and build it again. You need to deconstruct yourself, your own beliefs, etc., and incorporate the other's point of view. In this particular case, she needs to understand what are the roles of this family, the gender roles, what is the importance of schooling for this family, what is the importance of mental health issues such as depression or anxiety. And well, think about Purnell model. I mean, all these domains I show you, she needs to explore all of these, because for her it might be a crime to take a child to help his father some days, but for them it is not. So I mean, there is a need of deconstruction of her beliefs. And I didn't want to forget, I don't know if you're aware of humanized care theory from Jean Watson. She proposes 10 steps of human care, etc. So at the end, if we want to provide humanized care, which is for me is in the top, it's like my main goal is to provide humanized care, patient-centered care, family-centered care. So if I want to provide these, I need to incorporate values, beliefs, and cultural issues from my patients. Otherwise, I won't be able. So, and also, if you know Patricia Benner theory from novice to expert, if you want to become an expert, and by expert I don't mean having many years of experience. By expert I mean someone who is reflective, who is critical, who wants to develop and to be active all the time. If you want to become an expert, you need to incorporate transcultural nursing. Otherwise, you will provide everyone the same, like a robot. And you're not robots. Don't forget that. You have hearts, you have brains, you have emotions, you have feelings, you have love.
Oke, silakan. Ada lagi pertanyaan atau mau menjawab? Cinta, silakan Cinta.
Okay, I will try to answer the question. In my opinion,
Boleh dibuka kameranya?
Sorry, my signal is unstable, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I try to answer this question. In my opinion, the nurse must learn the cultural knowledge, how to cope or encounter patient, practice cultural competence, and recognize that there are any cultural differences that exist between a nurse and a patient, so the nurse can provide a good care. Thank you.
And also that there's no culture better than the other. We are just different. But who am I to say that my Western or European, I don't know how to call it, is better than your Indonesian? I mean, that for me is even rude. And you're right with the answer. I would suggest you, all of you, that now that you have, unfortunately, you have attended to a lecture on transcultural nursing, so now it's not under my opinion. Now it's according to evidence, which is, I mean, the journals and the books are full of evidence that says we must implement transcultural nursing. So it's not a matter of opinion. You may like it or not, but unfortunately, well, fortunately, if you ask me, is according to the evidence. So if we are saying that nurses should provide evidence-based practice, we need to incorporate transcultural nursing, because according to evidence is the best way to do it, the best way to get proper outcomes, respectful outcomes, and it has an impact, of course, in future issues, in future health issues or future encounters. For example, here we have had some issues with transgender community, because even though we have an open-minded country, we have anti-discrimination LGBT policies, even though we have many I mean, like, we have gained many rights, trans people, they are still discriminated and they feel rejected when they go to healthcare. So I mean, how I don't know what I was going to say is that since we are not providing culturally competent care to trans people, they're not going to the doctor, to the nurse, because they don't feel respected. So what's happening? They're having health issues because they don't want to go. I mean, how would you, would you like to go to a place where you're not being treated properly, where you know they don't like you? Would you go? I won't. Because what's the point? I mean, why should I expose myself to a situation where I will be judged, questioned, criminalized, discriminated, stigmatized? I wouldn't go, for sure. So that's what's happening. So we have lots of trans people that they are dealing with their issues in an informal way, looking through internet, sharing their problems with their peers. And this is the best care they should get? No, because we have a formal health system and it's a non-discriminatory system, but the reality is that they feel discriminated. This is because we are not providing transcultural care. So that goes beyond religiosity, etc. We are not providing culturally competent care for trans people. I'm very sad to say so, but that's our reality. So we need to change. Fortunately, we are doing some changes. We are including transgender issues in our nursing degrees. We are designing with them some intervention. We have finished right now our research with them, identifying their barriers and facilitators to access care. And this will give us some important information to design new protocols. But I mean, transcultural care is everywhere. I feel I'm talking too much.
Yeah, talking much, but that is important for us.
Well, I hope you are, understanding and feeling this is interesting, and we can continue another day, or we could create some, I don't know, training issues or whatever, because it's an important issue. And also in Indonesia, where you live with many different communities. I remember when I went there, they took me to rural areas, and you need to approach them in a very in a real way.
Well, what is the may I ask a question? What is the what is the main thing while we meet other people with different culture? I mean, perhaps we do not agree with them, with certain people, but what is the the universal, maybe more universal value when we meet other people?
I would link that to Gene Watson theory. I mean, kindness, being compassion, being genuine, being present, if you don't like him or her, that's your problem. Actually, it's not your patient's problem. He may not like you either.
Yes.
But the professional is you. I mean, you are the professional, so you're not there to judge or to question anyone. So I would go to that, to the basic, to the origins of care.
Okay. Thank you.
At the end, it's so simple. I mean, if you think for a couple of minutes, it is so simple.
Yeah. Thank you. Baik.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, baik.
I hope you have liked it and you have enjoyed, or at least I have I don't know, challenged you or opened your mind. And now it's time for you to discuss and argue and fight and find some books and articles. There's a very nice I think you may know it, but there's the Journal of Transcultural Nursing that is full of articles, evidences, cases. It's a very interesting journal. And there is also the, if I'm not wrong, the American Association of Transcultural Nursing, that they have in their website. They have lots of resources and readings and seminars and these things. And of course, there's also the European Transcultural Nursing Association, ETNA.
Okay, thank you for some sources. Yeah. Okay, baik. Thank you, Mr. Juan, for the very interesting lecture about transcultural nursing. May we implement, learning first about the transcultural nursing, then we will implement it from the nearest circle to our friends, our colleagues, then to other people, our neighborhood, then for country and other countries, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, and I think it is time to end the lecture. Thank you very much for your coming to Indonesia. I hope next time. Yeah.
Di foto nggak? Di foto untuk dokumentasi mungkin.
Oh ya, boleh. Ya, silakan. Mari teman-teman sekalian open cam semuanya bareng sekejap. Mbak Afi, boleh silakan Mbak Afi nanti yang apa ini ya Mbak Afi ya?
So Juan, we will take a picture for all of us as a documentation.
Ramai ternyata kalau dibuka semua. Yeah, here it's like a sign language. I love you. I love you. But I prefer like this. I love you.
And is it with the right hand or with the left hand, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah. This is the original. I love you. But here it's like Metallica.
Yes.
So I like this. I prefer this.
Okay.
Yeah. Sudah Mbak
Oh,
Afi?
and this as well. Is this I've seen this as well. Nice. What does it mean, this? Love as well?
Yes.
In Korean.
Yeah.
This Korean. Okay.
It is like heart, right?
Oh, yeah, it's true.
It's like heart, so
okay.
My heart for you.
Perfect.
Yeah. Mbak Afi sudah? 1, 2, 2, 3. Oke. Oke, Mbak Afi. Oke, sudah, Mbak Afi. Oke, sudah. Kayaknya Mbak Afi.
Sudah, Bu.
Oke, alhamdulillah. Baik, terima kasih Mbak Afi. Oke, thank you, Juan. It's already taken by our
Okay.
staff there. Yeah, Mbak Afi. Thank you, Mbak Afi. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Yuan, for your coming, and thank you very much for all the students to attend the lecture today. I hope this will be it's the start. Yeah, it's start to learn more and more, and encourage ourselves to be competent in transcultural. Yeah. Okay, thank you, and see you next time. Let's close our meeting today by saying hamdalah and praying alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Amin. Terima kasih dan mohon maaf, forgive me if kalau ada kesalahan. See you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Gracias,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for the great material.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.